Good afternoon. My name is Eli. Can you please tell me your name?
Good afternoon. My name is Mai Duyên.
Okay, and what should I call you?
You can call me Duyên.
Zwin.
Yeah.
Okay, Zwin, in this first part, I'm going to ask you some questions about yourself. Let's first of all talk about what you do. Do you work or study?
Currently, I'm the last year university student in Foreign Trade University in Vietnam.
And so, what subject are you studying?
Um, I'm majoring in international business.
Have you been studying this subject for a long time?
I've been studying this for 4 years. Actually, at first, I was quite torn between English language and international business, but I just wanted to try something new apart from English, which something I had spent a lot of time learning when I was in high school. But actually, right now, I realized it was not really the right fit for me.
Why not?
Because like right now, I put much more effort on learning English and practice speaking and writing English much more than my major. And I don't know, I just feel like I have a soft spot for languages.
Hmm. And what do you like most about the subject you're studying?
In terms of theoretical aspect, actually, I didn't focus much on my studies at university because maybe because of the old-fashioned teaching methods of my teachers,
Hmm.
but actually I learned a lot from my friends. They were very dynamic, and I learned from the way they speak and they talked in front of people and all the soft skills.
Let's move on. Let's talk about shopping centers. Do you often go to shopping centers?
Right now, I tend to do shopping online because of the COVID-19, definitely. But normally, I don't go to shopping malls or shopping center because it's too expensive for students like me.
Mhm. When did you last go to a shopping center?
Well, it's really hard to say because we've been actually we're not right now. We were on lockdown for several months, and we are forced or we are encouraged to stay indoors. So the last time maybe when I visited a local street market near my apartment, like to buy some fruit, vegetables.
Mhm. Do you prefer large or small shopping centers?
Well, it depends on my purpose. If I just want to go window shopping with my friends or meeting up with them, maybe I prefer to go big shopping malls. Just want to see all the luxurious items or fashionable shoes. But if I tend to save up for money for sorry, save money for rainy days. So I tend to buy on some local markets or some small shopping centers.
Why do you think some people don't like going to shopping centers?
Mm, Personally, I think there are some people who like to bargain. Like in some street markets, you can talk to the shop owners and you can bargain and you do the talking. But there's maybe some people they tend to be quite skeptical about the products. on some big shopping centers because they don't know exactly where they come from.
Mm. Let's talk about mornings. Do you find it easy to get up out of bed in the morning?
To be perfectly honest with you, I'm a night owl, so I find it's really challenging to grab myself out of bed in the morning, early in the morning. So I tend to have a line till in the noon or afternoon. And then I spend a lot of time working and studying till the early hours.
Okay, now in this next part, I'm going to give you a topic and I'd like you to talk about it for 1 to 2 minutes. Before you talk, you'll have 1 minute to think about what you're going to say, and you can make some notes if you wish. Do you understand?
Yes, I understand.
Okay, so here's your topic. Can you see that?
Yes, I see that.
Great. Okay, so you'll have 1 minute to prepare. All right. Remember, you have 1 to 2 minutes for this, so don't worry if I stop you. I'll tell you when the time is up. Can you start speaking now, please?
Okay. Let me take you back to when I was in the sophomore year in university. Actually, it was at the end of the final exam in my university, and actually, I'm a chronic procrastinator, so I tend to delay everything until the deadlines are looming. And at that time is also the time of the birthday of one of my closest friends, and because I was too busy with all the deadlines, I stayed up really late, and I'm too tired with all my work, and then her birthday slipped my mind. And I remember on that day when I was brushing my teeth in the bathroom, and I saw the calendar and realized it was her birthday. And I just like I just feel like at that time I lost track of time, and right at the moment I called, she didn't receive the call, and I suppose that she tried to ignore me because of my mistake. And I tried to find something to make up for her. And on the day, on the next day, I decided to invite her to one of my favorite cafe, which was like a stone's throw from my university. And actually, I pretended that I didn't remember her birthday, but then when she went there, I just gave her a surprise party and my apology, and fortunately, she forgave me. And
Okay, thank you. And did she forgive you?
yes, of course,
Okay, wonderful.
yeah.
Okay, now we'll move on to part three. And in this part, I'm going to ask you some more general questions related to your topic. So let's first of all discuss arriving on time. So you're living in Vietnam. In Vietnam, is it important to arrive on time?
Yes, in some special cases, punctuality is very important, like in some interviews or some important exams, because I think as a candidate, you want to come across as a professional and confident and punctual person. And for some important exams, you have to be on time, or otherwise you will receive a zero score mark. Yeah.
And so, what can people do to make sure that they arrive on time?
I think as a general rule, they tend to take notes on computers, on phones. Like myself, I use both of them, and and I think time is also something that they really should focus on. Like they should set the alarm for, especially when the time when they were too busy or too tired.
Why do you think some people always arrive late?
I suppose it's just one of the habits.
Mm.
Like it comes from like small things in your life when you don't achieve all the small targets, and it tend to like it has a ripple effect on everything you do in your life. I think that.
Mm. Let's move on. Let's talk about the fear of missing out. So some people call this FOMO. Have you heard of that? Fear of
Yes, I
missing
know.
out, yeah. So some people think that social media can in make our fear of missing out more acute, so we feel it more. Do you think that's true?
I think it's true nowadays, especially for youngsters, because every day we are bombarded with a lot of information, and uh, if and we feel like and I think this is one of the main reasons why it pushes us to reach for our phone every time when we are free. We don't do everything, and all the instant gratification, it just attracts you to social media. And if like when you want to focus on something, but there's a lot of popping up or notification on your screens, and you tend to check it, and after 1 hour, even when there are no notifications, like your brain can create a habit, and you try to interrupt you by actively check your phone and scroll through your social media.
And do you think the things that we see on social media increase our fear of missing out on special events or holidays, for example?
um can you repeat the question? I didn't
Yeah,
quite
yeah, of
catch
course. Do you think that the things that we see on social media can increase our fear of missing out? So, for example, sometimes when I go on Instagram, I see photos of my friends on holiday, and that makes me feel like I should go on holiday as well. So,
that.
do you think that the things that we see on social media can increase our fear of missing out?
I think one of the disadvantages of using social media is you can compare yourselves to others. So you want to copy their lifestyles, you want to have what they have. So um, if you have a friend, they go on a holiday, they post some you know fascinating pictures or things like that. You can think that you should do that, or you are left behind. Yeah.
Hmm. So, what can we do to reduce that fear of missing out?
I think that we should decide which is our priority.
Mhm.
Like why we use social media to catch up with our friends, to know what they've been up to, not in a way like you judge their lives and judge our lives also. And I think deciding what is important to you and your focus right now is very important. Even much more important to decide. Decide what not important to you not right now is more important than deciding what is important to you right now.
Thank you very much. That is the end of the speaking test. So, how did you feel?
I feel nervous too.
Really?
Very nervous. Yeah.
Okay. You didn't seem very nervous.
No, actually, my heart uh, beats so fast right now. Yeah.
Right, right. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, but unfortunately, I don't stutter during this speaking test because I stutter whenever I feel too nervous. But actually, practicing speaking IELTS helps me a lot. It has improved a lot for the last
Interesting.
2 years. Yeah.
Right, right. So it's kind of like when you find yourself getting very nervous, you start to repeat the words very quickly. Is that what happens?
Yes, yes. But I right now I think because I put myself in like this like stressful situations a lot. So I think I get more familiar with it, and I
Right.
control it more.
Yeah, people often say practice makes perfect. So because you're constantly in these difficult, stressful situations, you become
Yes,
better able to deal with the stress.
yes, absolutely. I think the real IELTS test is much more stressful because, because the examiner and I don't have time to break the ice. We just jump right into the test. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it was quite nice that we got to speak a little bit before we started recording this test.
Yes.
Oh, great. So you did very well. It was a really nice test, and I'm incredibly impressed with your vocabulary, especially lots of very impressive idiomatic vocabulary, which is great. And what we'll do is in a second we'll go through a lot of that vocabulary. You spoke very naturally. You did very well to answer a lot of the questions, including the tricky questions in part three, and your vocabulary was wonderful. Um, Sometimes there's a when you're speaking, and this is probably the lowest of your scores. It would be for pronunciation and particularly sentence stress. And I think this sometimes happens when you're trying to focus on using particular vocabulary. So you were talking about in part two, you were talking about your friend's birthday, and you wanted to say how the birthday slipped your mind. And because you were kind of so focused on using that phrase, it slipped my mind. You didn't put the right amount of emphasis on the fact that it slipped your mind. Instead, you put emphasis on the fact that you wanted to use that vocabulary. So if I was telling a story, for example, where I forgot my friend's birthday, I would want some sort of kind of pause or element to emphasize that was the kind of the important part of the story. But instead, what you did is you went through it in roughly the same tone. So if I was talking about missing my friend's birthday, I would say something like, and then I looked at my calendar, and that's when I realized I'd forgotten my friend's birthday. And you lean in a little bit, whereas what you did is more like, and then I looked at the calendar and I realized it had totally slipped my mind. And so there was like a slight kind of distortion because what you were saying was very dramatic, but the way you were saying it was quite kind of flat. And so I think that would be something to work on in the future. Is being quite expressive and understanding that when you use dramatic vocabulary, or when you're saying something like saying something dramatic like you've missed your friend's birthday, then try and emphasize it with your voice. Does that make sense?
Yes. I think is still one of the things that I need to improve. The intonation, the way I stress the sentence, because actually I realize I will be more comfortable when I use like common words, but when I try to use more complex lexical resource, I tend to be too jumpy and like I forgot the tone and the emotion related to the sentence.
Yeah, that's quite common when people are focusing on using specific words rather
Yeah.
than conveying their idea. Now you use so much idiomatic vocabulary. Like it's like more you use more idioms and more idiomatic vocabulary than I would expect a native speaker to use in with the same questions, and that's a good thing and a bad thing. The good thing is it's amazing that you know all of this vocabulary. Yeah, so when you were talking about the deadline, you were talking about your work, and so I think a native speaker would probably just say, and I had this huge deadline that I had to work towards. And you were able to use this idiomatic vocabulary. You said, and I knew that the deadline was looming. So like a looming deadline, which is very impressive, but sometimes maybe doesn't fully communicate what your message is. So I would focus a bit more on communication and a little less on trying to use idiomatic vocabulary, because you already have an absolutely amazing variety of vocabulary. And let's actually go through some of that. So in part one, I love the phrases torn between. You said you were torn between English and business management, I think. So lovely to say I was torn between these two subjects, which is very nice. Again, you said that you're not the right fit for the subject you study. So to be or not to be the right fit, very nice. To put effort, you had a soft spot for English. You mentioned old-fashioned teaching methods. I liked also when I asked you about the shopping centers and you paraphrased that to shopping malls, or you used a synonym. So that shows high-level vocabulary. I really like this sentence where you said forced, and then you corrected yourself to encourage to stay indoors. That was a really, really impressive use of English, because what you did there is you took a passive sentence and using both the word forced and encouraged is correct in that sentence. You can say forced to stay indoors, encouraged to stay indoors. And what you did is you self-corrected so that you could convey your idea better. So you started by saying we were forced to stay indoors. And then you thought, okay, wait a second. We weren't forced to stay indoors. We were encouraged to stay indoors. And just noticing, though the slight distinction between being forced to do something and encouraged to do something is very impressive. So as soon as I heard that, I thought, wow, this is a very impressive speaking test. I really like things like it depends on the purpose. So I was asking you about shopping centers, and I like that you said it depends on the purpose. Sometimes I like to go shopping, especially to shopping malls for window shopping. And again, very impressive vocabulary, but it almost felt like you were guiding your answer to use the phrase window shopping. Does that make sense? So instead of, is that true a little bit, or?
A little bit, I think so.
Right. Okay. Yeah. That was just like my kind of feeling, that like at some point I was kind of aware that I felt that you had phrases that you wanted to use. So, okay, if I talk about shopping centers, I'm going to use window shopping rather than really conveying, your experience of shopping centers. And so that would be a little bit of advice for you, is try not to focus too much on using particular words and focus a bit more on trying to communicate how you really feel. And then the big words will come naturally. And as a result, you'll use them in the context that's right for you.
I think I'm too focused on, like, this is a test, not a conversation. So I feel like I'm like try to, like, I don't know, but like create an alter ego or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, sometimes kind of creating an alter ego can be a good thing. Like, for example, the way that you can relax. If you said that sometimes you feel nervous, if you create an alter ego, then sometimes that alter ego is more relaxed than you are. And you can kind of go like, okay, my alter ego, you go and do this test, and I'll just kind of sit back and watch.
Yeah, but I think actually from what you have said, I realized that the exact problem that I need to improve right now for my speaking, like I'm too focused on, like, I have to use big words.
Mm.
And if I come up with a big words, and then I feel really happy, and I can't convey the exact meaning of what I said. I think that's the problem.
So what you just did there was perfect. Like that short speech there was really really nice. So
Yeah,
because that was very real. Did you see
yeah,
that? And
yeah, yeah.
you used all of this lovely vocabulary, used convey, come up with, and examiners will notice that. But what the difference was is that was real speech. You were doing your best to communicate that idea, and I could
Yeah.
feel that, and the examiner will feel that as well. So that was wonderful. I think what you just did there, that's the alter ego that you need.
Yeah, yeah,
Well,
I think so. I
that's the
think so.
side of you that you need is
Yeah.
I'm here and I want to communicate to you. I want to tell you my thoughts, my beliefs, my experiences. And that's what
Yes.
you just did perfectly in that little speech.
Yeah, I think so. I think I should focus like I think I take maybe a little bit false approach to my speaking. Like I need to boost, of course, my vocabulary, but I need to improve like my feeling and my emotion, what I really feel with that sentence, and speak from my heart.
I think so because and when you do that, that's for you. That's what's going to help you get into the 7.5, the 8, and the 8.5, and maybe even band 9 as well. Because you've got a very high level of grammar. You speak very accurately. You've got a very high level of vocabulary, and the next step is to use all of that to convey your ideas and your beliefs. So, how do you feel after having done the speaking test?
Actually, I always feel after some speaking tests, or even mock test, I always feel that I just wonder why I was so stressed out to to pressure myself to think of all the big words and everything like fancy big words. But actually, I think that I have a lot to say
Yeah.
from my heart about the question. So I think I need time to practice more about like learn to speaking from what I truly think rather than too much emphasis on the vocabulary or grammar and things like that.
One thing I'd like to ask you is about how you deal with being nervous, because I know a lot of people also feel very nervous when they're doing the speaking test. And you said that you used to stutter and you used to get incredibly nervous, and now you're getting better at that. What advice or what kind of tips would you give to people on how to improve their nervousness and their condition?
I think if it's something that you really want to, then you find a way, even when you are so afraid of making a mistake. But I think you just need to face it. Um, when you lack something, you need to fight it more, like to put yourself in that situations to get familiar with. And as you just said before, practice makes perfect.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much for coming and doing the speaking test.
Yeah, thank you for your feedback. I think is very useful for me to improve myself, not just in English, but in the way I communicate by the language.